The most recent addition to my commander roster is an aggressive Azusa Lost But Seeking list that aims to churn out as many lands as possible and hit people with the biggest behemoths known to Magic. I'm really proud of how it came out with its abundance of synergies and its ability to go off if left unchecked. Brewing the list itself came easy, as Magic design has been really kinda green in the last 10 years. Finishing the deck, however, came with one big final hurdle. Out of the 720 possible options printed throughout Magic's lifetime, what basic forest did I want for this list? The fixation on land started all the way back when I first discovered Magic. One fateful afternoon at my local after-school program, during a short break from running around with my friends in the cafeteria, I happened to take a seat at a table where a few older kids were playing a card game I had never seen before. All right, Mountain, Raging Goblin, Attack, Pass. Okay, Plains, Savannah Lions, go ahead. Now, I was deep into Pokemon at this point, as most kids were in the late 90s and early 2000s, so of course, I had a bunch of Pokemon cards. It was my first card game, so I would crack packs whenever my parents would pick some up for me and find Pokemon with abilities I couldn't really comprehend yet, energy cards, and the general lightheartedness that the franchise would become synonymous with. That was what card games looked like to me up until that point. But what I was experiencing at this table was different. These cards looked mean, vicious. They were out to kill each other. It wasn't a friendly competition where your goblin was going to shake hands with the lion across the table and strengthen their bond and respect for one another by the end of the match. One of them was going to walk away triumphant, and the other was going to die. They weren't even called monsters. They were creatures, a word normally reserved for things truly ugly or conniving in children's cartoons. Your cards didn't go to the discard pile, they were going to the graveyard. And your goal wasn't to win prize cards, it was to take your opponent's life from 20 down to 0. You were trying to kill your opponent. As a child with limited exposure to fantasy tropes up until that point, the vernacular was almost scary to me at the time. What I was witnessing truly felt arcane, and I was absolutely enthralled by every little detail. I was really young, significantly younger than the recommended 13 years old on all of the packaging for Magic, but the urge to learn and experience this new, unexplored world outweighed any struggles I would have trying to learn how to play. For some reason, though, among all of the really amazing cards hitting the board, I sat there absolutely enamored with the lands of all things. Something about using nature itself to generate the mana needed to play your spells felt really powerful. In my child brain, I imagined you were a wizard and you were exploring these lands to find and summon the monsters within them. And the breathtaking art just further enforced that, with paintings just as fitting for a museum as they were on a piece of cardboard. That first experience with Magic is probably a big reason why Rob Alexander stands as one of my all-time favorite artists who worked on the game. A huge part of what makes Magic the greatest game ever made is that it can resonate with a person on such a deep level in an unfathomable amount of ways. Those old player archetypes, Timmy, Johnny, and Spike, they all exist to explain that very concept. The idea that you can come to the game and get so much out of one aspect of it that another person may not care about at all. If you're curious, out of those original archetypes, I'm a Johnny. When it comes to deck building and an overall enjoyment of the game though, I fall right in the middle of the lesser known aesthetic focused archetypes of Vorthos and Mel. Vorthos cares about flavor above all else, choosing cards based on creating a cohesive visual identity across their deck lists, sometimes down to the color of the sleeves. Mel finds beauty in mechanics, someone that loves cards for their design and how cards interact with each other. Mel finds the beauty in a 10-card combo that other players might roll their eyes at. And speaking to that, my favorite decks in Legacy to this day are Belcher and Storm. Hey everybody, it's Foxherder jumping in real quick because I forgot to mention, please like and subscribe. This is a brand new channel, and that little gesture helps out so much more than you would ever realize. Follow me on social media, we got links below. Thanks. Let's get back to it. I strive to create a visual identity in all of the decks I build, especially in Commander, where that eye for aesthetics becomes a taste museum with longer games and more cards on the table. When I find a Commander I like, I immediately look for a printing that catches my eye. Back to my Azusa deck, the only answer was this absolutely gorgeous alternate art from Secret Lair City Styles, which featured 5 cards illustrated by the brilliant Sue Benari. Their work beyond Magic is absolutely breathtaking, so I put a link to their social media below to check more out if you haven't, because damn. Now with the Commander decided, the very next thing I do is go on Scryfall and look at the relevant basic lands. I'm going to statistically see these cards more than any other as I play, and I want to find the ones that speak to both my tastes and the mechanics of the deck. I stick with one artwork per basic land type for visual consistency. I also vastly prefer the pre-8th edition card frame to any other for its flavor, so I almost exclusively use that unless I find a perfect full art match. I actually almost ended up going with this piece by W. Fleming Illustration from Streets of New Capenna, as if you look at the greenhouse Azusa strolling in, it's easy to picture this being what lies beyond the glass. However, I knew she was going to be using her accelerated mana abilities to summon enormous, godlike entities and behemoths to end games, which could get a little messier than necessary in the confines of a city. So her greenhouse needed to be in the middle of a dense forest, a safe haven where she can grow the flora of her native Kamigawa in peace while assisting the towering monsters in their home. Though her space is bright and vibrant, the creatures she commands come from the darkness of the shade of the trees or the clouds above, so I wanted to convey growth above and below. That landed me on a more obscure piece from 7th edition by the legend John Avon. Close your eyes for a second, get in the mood, picture this with me. Trees sprout sharply and unpredictably from a bed of moss or perhaps more uniform bushes. The diagonal direction of the piece insinuates the rapid pace at which this forest is growing and changing, as if you're watching a time-lapse play out in reality. Although the scene is foggy and quiet, you can feel the green mana surging. There's a sinking, powerful feeling that this forest will grow to uncontrollable size sooner than you can react to it, and if left unchecked, it will silently consume the area. This forest is one entity. Azusa's monstrous companions loom over and under the greenery. They're hulking shadows beyond the fog, for now, but they are getting closer. You can feel the footsteps before you can hear them. You must leave before it's too late. This basic is a perfect match. Now, of course, it had to be the foil version to avoid the white border clashing with the rest of the deck, and hunting for 26 of the same obscure foil forest from a set famous for its immaculate foils was even more of a task than it sounds like it would be. All for the love of the game. I love spending time deciding on things like card art because it helps continue that magical feeling I had when I first discovered Magic. Fanning through a deck and seeing the aesthetic decisions I made pay off is an incredible feeling, and honestly helps me feel the fantasy more than any other aspect. And I don't ever want to lose the love I have for the art and the flavor. Hey, thanks for spending time with me in my ramblings. As I'm sure a few of you picked up on, I was feeling really inspired by the works of creators like Ristic Studies and Spice 8 Rack to discuss my love of the game that's been in my life for literally as long as I can remember. I hope my perspective inspires you to take a little bit more time on the flavor of your decks, and let me know what your favorite basic land art is in the comments. Till next time, I have been Foxherder, and you have been wonderful.